Welcome to Once Upon a Castle, unlocking the magic of Disney, past and present. I'm Gini, your guide through the parks and the pages of Disney's rich history. Each week, we will share expert tips to help you plan your perfect visit and explore the stories, secrets, and legends that make the magic real. From Walt's vision to today's hidden gems, we will help you feel more connected, more prepared, and more enchanted every step of the way. So, whether you're counting down the days to your next trip or just dreaming of a stroll down Main Street, USA, this is your place to discover the wonder. This is Once Upon a Castle. Welcome back to Once Upon a Castle, the show where we wander the winding streets, hidden courtyards, and stories that make Disneyland more than just a park. It's a living, breathing piece of American imagination. This episode is part 4, the grand finale of our 4-part series all about New Orleans Square. We've covered a lot of ground in this land, haven't we? In part 1, we explored the attractions, the pirates, the happy haunts, and the rides that make this corner of Disneyland legendary. In part 2, we let the music carry us away with the entertainment, the jazz, the performers, and the sounds that give New Orleans Square its heartbeat. And in part 3, we pulled up a chair and ate our way through the land, from Walt's espresso machine at Cafe Orleans to the perpetual twilight of the Blue Bayou and everything in between. But if you've been listening to this show for a while, you know that every land season ends the same way, with the part I love the most, a conversation, a real one. Because Disneyland isn't just about rides and restaurants and history, it's about the people who carry that magic with them and the personal stories that make the park mean something different to each of us. Today, I'm sitting down with someone I truly admire, a fellow podcast host, a travel planner, and a Disney lover whose passion for this park runs deep. We're going to talk about what makes New Orleans Square so special, what draws us back to it again and again, and the kind of tips and stories that only come from someone who really knows the park by heart. But before we do this, let's take a look at a lovely new review. Today's review comes from Red Baron 34. They wrote, "As someone who loves Disneyland history and going there, this podcast makes me happy while I'm not in the parks. Thank you for the wonderful show." Thank you, Red Baron 34, for your kind words. I am so glad that I can offer a little taste of the parks even when you're sadly not there, and get you your Disney fix. I really appreciate you listening and especially leaving a review. And if you're enjoying this episode or our series in general, I'd love your help spreading the magic. Please consider leaving a 5-star rating and review. Leaving a rating and a review truly helps other Disney dreamers find their way to the magic. Now, I know you are all dying. You see what I did there? I'm sorry. To meet today's guest, so let's get into it. Joining me today is Teresa Urban, creator and host of the DL Weekly podcast, a show that has become one of my personal favorites in the Disneyland podcast community. If you haven't listened yet, do yourself a favor and fix that after this episode. Teresa brings a warmth, a passion, and a genuine love for Disneyland that you can feel the moment she starts talking. Her show has a way of making you feel like you're walking through the park with a good friend who just happens to know all the best stories. Teresa is also a travel planner with Concierge Travel, where she takes that same love and knowledge and pours it into helping families and fellow Disney fans plan trips that go beyond just checking off lists of rides. She understands that a great Disneyland trip isn't about what you do, it's about how it makes you feel. And here's something I love about Teresa. She's a Haunted Mansion fan through and through, which means she and I are already speaking the same language. There's something about people who are drawn to that attraction that tells you they appreciate the artistry, the storytelling, and the layers of details that make Disneyland so much more than a theme park. I've been a fan of Teresa's work for a few years now, and having her here on Once Upon a Castle to close out New Orleans Square feels like the perfect way to wrap it all up. We're going to talk about what makes this land so special, her own Disney story, and the kind of tips that only come from someone who truly knows and loves this park. I am so excited to welcome Teresa Urban to the show. All right. Well, thank you, Teresa, so much for joining me today. And I'm going to start off by asking you, I'm going to put you in the hot seat and ask you a question
Mhm.
um, that you have asked literally hundreds of times. Girl, what's your Disney story?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much, Jenny, for inviting me to be on the show. I'm very excited to talk Disney with you and specifically, New Orleans Square. But yeah, so my Disney story has a fun actual New Orleans Square reference, so we'll get to that. But I grew up in the Midwest, so I really did not grow up with the parks. I grew up on like the movies and the films and just being fascinated with everything. I remember the first park I visited was actually Walt Disney World. And at that time, they would like the Walt Disney Travel Company would send you a VHS tape to like get you excited about going. And I wore that tape out. I was just fascinated with all of the different rides and attractions and lands and just everything about it. Um, so yeah, so my first park was actually Walt Disney World, which I think is interesting because my heart is with Disneyland now because I've learned better because my first trip to Disneyland was in 2000 and there's just something magical and just like palpable about it. I just graduated 6th grade, so like I was old enough that this shouldn't have been a thing, but I was terrified, absolutely terrified of going on the Haunted Mansion. I tried so hard to wiggle my way out of not having to go. Um but my family made me go. I remember being in the stretching room like panic attack crying like to the point that a cast member came over and was like, is she
Are
okay,
you
does she need
okay?
to
Oh my
leave? And
gosh.
my aunt was like, she's fine.
She's
So
gonna suck it up.
it's fine, like because I had a really bad what it stemmed from was I had a really bad experience with like a haunted house where people were chasing and grabbing, and I had already experienced Disney attractions and I like knew how immersive they were, so I was like, oh no, this is gonna be terrible. So Universal like Halloween Horror Nights, not my jam.
Yeah, yeah.
But so anyways, I remember at the end of it, like, halfway through, maybe we were in the ballroom scene is when like the tears started like we're finally stopping because like we were getting to the fun part and then like the turn and like just being mesmerized by it. And now to this day that's my favorite attraction, which is weird because that was it was a very traumatic experience, but I came out on it. So
Right.
yeah, so that's kind of my Disney story. And then as an adult, getting to experience the parks more and like we were talking pre-podcast, learning more about the history and kind of connecting all those dots just really made it more palpable and just so much more intriguing. And so now I'm a proud Disney adult and just love every moment of it.
That's right. Own it. Badge of honor.
Yeah.
My husband got me one of from the book, the Disney adult hats, and
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I love it. I'll wear that. No, that's amazing. You and I have a similar story. My first Disney park was Disney World,
Mhm.
and it wasn't until I was a little bit into adulthood going to Disneyland. And like, I love how you said, but now I know better. I mean, I
Yeah.
do like Disney World, of course,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. They're just
um,
different.
they are different. Yeah, we were at a friend's house this morning and somebody brought up Disney World and my husband like scoffed at them. They're like, "Oh, he's like, "Ugh, wrong park. Like we don't talk about Disney World."
Funny.
But I mean, it's great. So, okay, so Teresa, we know that you host your own Disneyland podcast. And to be perfectly honest, I didn't tell you this earlier, but your podcast, DL Weekly, is one that definitely inspired me to start this
Oh.
podcast. So just being a fan for a long time and realizing how much fun you guys were having doing this. And then just the community that you're building, it really inspired me to like, okay, like you can do this. You can figure
Yeah.
this out. Just get out there and give it a go. So I just want to thank you for that.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So you host your own podcast, DL Weekly, and you're a travel planner with Concierge. So, that's like two careers. I know you don't make money off of DL Weekly, but like
Yeah.
that's the work of a career. So that's two careers built around the Disneyland park. So when did loving Disneyland shift from something you just did for like funsies into something that like you're genuinely building your life around?
Yeah, that great question. So that shift happened in 2017. And I don't even think I was really aware that the shift was happening, but that is when Tag approached me and was like, "Hey, I have this idea for a podcast." At that time, I didn't even really like I was somewhat familiar that podcasts exist, but had never listened to one myself. So I was kind of like, yeah, sure. So it just kind of happened. Like it wasn't really intentional. It's just been something that he and I just wanted to like pour our nerdy selves into and like give our significant others, now husbands, kind of a break from because they're fans but not the same level. So it just kind of sort of shifted, and through DL Weekly I've made numerous just really incredible connections that no way would have ever thought that I would have had some of the opportunities that we've had. And one of those was connecting with Concierge. We've been partnered with them since 2018.
Oh,
And then
wow.
just last year, I finally took the leap and was like, you know what? I should like travel planning should like I should make this a thing for me because it's something that I really enjoy. I really enjoy connecting with people. It's allowed me connect with different listeners that we maybe wouldn't have connected with otherwise, and just being a part of like the excitement of planning a Disney vacation with someone, sharing that knowledge is just really fills my cup.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you're so knowledgeable that I'm sure you offer just a tremendous wealth of knowledge
Yeah.
to the clients that you get to work with, like all of the hidden secrets and details, and like you wouldn't know to try this,
Hmm.
but like give this a go or think about that. No, that's really beautiful and amazing. And like you said, just the idea of like building that culture and community,
Yeah.
um, and knowing that you have like-minded people, not
Hmm.
just for their love of Disney, but I would say too, from what I've experienced being in the communities that you have fostered, is just the like-mindedness of humans in general, like how
Yeah.
we treat people, how we love people. And that always feels good to find,
Hmm.
you know, people that you're connected with in that way.
Definitely. The internet, as I like to say, is like a beautiful and scary thing all in one one kind of like wrap up. But there are like genuine positive good spaces within there. So it's just, you just got to find where that is for you, whether it's a Disney community or, some other something that you're passionate about. That's the great thing about the internet is you can now connect with people that normally you would have never, your lives would have never intersected and you never would have met. So it's really great to bring people together like across,
Mm,
really the world. And yeah, it's just great because like I think about like the community that I live in, like it's Tag and I'm sure there's other Disney like crazed people like us,
hmm.
but it's not really something that you kind of go into your normal life like
Right.
kind of at the forefront. So it's a little harder to find these people. So it takes spaces like, the podcast spaces or YouTube communities or whatever to kind of help connect these people a little bit better.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. So we were just talking about like your travel planning. Do
Mhm.
you know off the top of your head how many trips you have personally taken to Disneyland over the years?
I need to figure this out. Honestly, I do. I need to sit down and figure this out. But so pre-podcast, so pre-Deal Weekly, it was honestly probably only 5 or 6 trips. Now,
Okay.
mind you, coming from the Midwest, a trip is,
That's a lot.
a solid week. So
Yeah.
it's not, so it's not, so some people say trips as in like, oh, this many days at the park. Well, I did like that many vacations. And then post podcast, like since Deal Weekly, um, we didn't go. Like the first full DL Weekly trip was D23 in 2019.
Okay.
Prior to that, Vern and I did go out in 2018 for Pixar Fest. So really the like I don't know, surge of multiple trips has kind of been more recent with the podcast, but we've been very fortunate since, of course, 2020. So like 2021 and forward, we've been doing like 3 to 4 trips a year. And that might
Mhm.
include Disneyland, or it might be, one of the really wonderful events or other places that are still connected to Disney that aren't specifically theme parks. So like we've done the Mouse Meet, the Pacific Northwest Mouse Meet. And then we've gone down to Marceline a couple of times. So
Mhm.
Marceline, Missouri is just a short, quote unquote short, 6 hour drive away from us. So that's the closest like Disney thing we have to where we live. And then yeah, I've been to Disney World a couple of times during that time too, and have also fallen in love with Disney cruises, and that's
Yeah.
like the new obsession. So it's like Disneyland, Disney cruises, and then kind of all the other Disney things after that are my like priorities in life now.
Yeah, that's so cool. And honestly, I knew about several of those other events like D23 and the Mouse Meet and
Yeah,
Marceline, but just hearing you guys report on those over the course of the last few years like those are bucket list items for me.
yeah,
I've got to find a way. Like they just sound so fun.
they are fun.
So that's a lot of trips.
Hmm. A
So
lot of trips.
is there any like specific trip or even just like one day in the park that like in some way just really changed things for you and like how you experience being in Disneyland? Or like have you had a moment where you're like, whoa, this shifted and like
Yes.
I'm all in?
Yeah. So it not really to like the love of the parks, but the like how we kind of view the parks now. So and that moment was actually on that first full DL weekly trip with that was the
Mhm.
first trip Tag and I took together, 2019. We were walking down Main Street, USA, and it was after the D23 Expo. So we'd already met these individuals at the D23 Expo and like had a little brief conversation and just kind of thought it was cool and like went about our ways toward of things. But we were walking down Main Street, USA, and the two Disneyland ambassadors at the time were also on Main Street, and they spotted us
Wow.
and said hello to us by name, and we're like,
Mhm.
"What?" Like so.
Mhm.
That was kind of like a shift of now Disneyland kind of feels more like a community to me than like a theme park, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
some events there kind of feel more like I don't know, like a homecoming or like a reunion of sorts. And so just being able to like never pre-podcast did I ever think that I'd bump into people that I knew
Mhm.
in the parks, because again, we're coming from the Midwest, we're coming from
Right.
Wisconsin. So what are the odds of somebody that I know is going to be in there? But since like our Disney specific connections have just been growing throughout the years, it happens more and more frequently, whether it's listeners, maybe people that we've had on the show, like we do meetups, all that sort of thing. So it's just kind of become it's like the space has just shifted to being, yes, the fun theme park destination, but also kind of a way to like reconnect with people in
Mhm.
person.
Mhm. I love that. And that makes me start to think about this summer and having an experience. So I was there on the 70th.
Oh yeah.
That was my best friend's 40th birthday.
Oh
So
fun. Yeah.
yes, we were doing it big. And I just remember throughout the day and like knowing a lot of the people that I follow and listen to on podcasts and follow on like social media, knowing that they were there and like feeling like, ooh, who might I see today? And I passed by Kate from Distery and was like so excited to like see
Yeah.
her. And I actually have a memory of I was wondering, I knew you and Ted were gonna be there.
Hmm.
And so like all day I was just like, am I gonna see them? Will I
Keeping
meet
your
them?
eyes peeled. Yeah.
And it was literally like the very end, the announcements, like everybody like get on out of here. And I was sitting on Frank's, God rest him, his
Mhm.
porch
Yeah.
at the end of the night, and the rest of my friends and family, like I was so tired. I was like, I need to go sit. Y'all can go hit Space Mountain. But I was sitting there, just minding my own business, and all of a sudden I hear Teg's voice, and I was like, could it be? Is it them? And I looked up and I saw you guys walking. And I had this moment. I was like, do I like run up to them and be like, oh my God, hi, and like have this total creepy fangirl moment? Or do I just
Oh,
like
not at
let
all.
it be? So I just like was like, oh, hi, like off in the distance, like, you don't see me. But because I'm like, I don't want to weird them out. But
Oh no, not at all.
yeah, I felt that even though I wasn't like, super connecting with people, just like knowing like, wow, we're all
Hmm.
here together doing this
Hmm.
thing together. It was
Yeah,
really great.
exactly. So like for us, like the 70th wasn't about attractions. We spent
Hmm.
so much time just like hanging out with people, which again,
Yeah.
like pre any of this, that's not what it was. It was very like, okay, we got to ride, go to
Yep.
this, and like really like try and experience as much as we possibly could because who knew the last time, the next time we'd be there, sort of thing. So it's just a much more kind of like relaxed vibe now, and it's just
Mhm.
more about like the park and not necessarily about how much can we get done, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh,
And you
100%. Yeah.
100% should have, like, come running after us and said hello. We would have been, like, tickled. We love it.
Maybe next time. Maybe
You're
next time.
like,
Yeah.
"My legs are too tired. I'm
I
not
know, and
getting."
it was part of that too. Like, can I move fast enough? Like, I
Yeah.
don't know if I can even move fast enough, but
Right, right.
it was cool. Yeah, I hear you on the Mark Burkey said vibes over rides. So I'm like, I
Mhm.
feel that. So like speaking of vibes, if people could see you right now, I'm like bummed I don't do video anymore, but like you're so stinking adorable. You got your Haunted Mansion spirit jersey, you got your Haunted Mansion ears, like you are in the New Orleans Square theme. So let's start digging into New Orleans Square, if you
Yeah,
don't mind.
of
And
course.
one thing that like I've noticed is that like the vibes, right? And the feelings that you get when you're experiencing New Orleans Square specifically. So if you had to like pinpoint a feeling, not like a ride or a food, but like a feeling that embodies New Orleans Square, what do you think it is? And then also, like, why do you think people connect and like resonate with that so much?
Yeah, I think it's kind of, I don't know, maybe wonder. So maybe, like
Mm.
wonder and curiosity. So like people like, right, nobody is like a fan of thinking about like death and dying, but we have a weird curiosity and fascination
Mm.
with it, which I think is why like the Haunted Mansion is so great because it's like creepy, but it's also very like inviting and not scary, if that makes sense. So
Yeah,
that's kind
yeah,
of that. And then same thing with just like the wonder of I'm thinking about like walking down the streets and you're just like in awe of all of the different little shops and all the little different details because there's just so many, not that other lands don't, but there's just so many layers to New Orleans Square. And if you really just take the time to kind of just take it all in and really allow yourself time to look at the details and not just like, nope, I need to go get the beignets or no, I need, just not
right.
rush through it. There's just so many details. And the fact that a lot of that has been there really since the beginning of New Orleans Square, which dates all the
Mhm.
way back to when Walt was still,
Yeah.
had a hand in the parks and was with us, is just really special because that's not necessarily what all of the other, things change over time. Like look at Tomorrowland, what
Yeah.
Tomorrowland was when it first opened versus what it is today versus who knows what it's going to be tomorrow. It's not the same. So there's kind of little pockets that I think you kind of feel Walt a little bit more, and New Orleans Square is one of those.
Yeah, that's gosh, that's such a really good word. And I love how you bring Walt into it because I think we're both big fans and just like have a lot of respect for him. So, this was the only land that he personally opened, and it was his last land
Yeah.
that he was involved in. So, like, do you think that we can feel his presence more, or do we feel it differently in New Orleans Square as compared to some of the other places around the park?
I think more. I think the place like for me where I kind of like connect with him most would be Main Street, the hub, and
Mm-hmm.
then New Orleans Square. And then kind of like past those places, this is gonna sound bad. Not that I'm like not like I just don't have the same like connection to like think I don't think about Walt when I'm in like Critter Country or
Sure,
Toontown or
sure.
those
Yeah.
sorts of things. Maybe Fantasyland too, because that still kind of gives the same vibes as what it was. But even that's changed. So those are kind of the two places that like can like see some of his thoughts and
Mm.
details more so in the park still.
Yeah, that's really good. So I was thinking about this too, and I would agree, like I feel the most connected with him on New Orleans Square and Main Street. And I think those things for me stemming back from like as I learned more, as just doing this podcast, like digging
Yeah.
more into the history and realizing how much Main Street was anchored to like his childhood and representative of his upbringing and like what made Walt Walt, right? How did we get
Yeah.
to this man who created all of this? And then digging into New Orleans, realizing his love for travel, he loved just New Orleans and he loved Europe. And like you start to see his personal life experiences come through in New Orleans Square. Like, hey, I saw this in France. I want to replicate it. Hey, I love this vibe and experience in New Orleans, and I want to make my own little New Orleans. So I kind of feel the same way in that he's resoundingly always there.
Yeah. And it was kind of almost a little bit of a love letter to Lillian, his wife, too, because, like,
That's
it was kind of
good.
a place for her and her, for her to, like, go shopping at all the fun little shops, kind of have, like, the elevated dining experiences. So it's kind of also, like, embodies his love for his wife.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So they're obviously like thinking about that, there's a lot more like shopping and dining compared to the amount of attractions
Oh, yeah.
there. Do you think that when he was creating it, like do you think there's any intentionality behind that, or is that just by happenstance, or was that purposeful? What are
I
your
think it was
thoughts?
yeah, I think it was purposeful because I think I've read that he kind of wanted to create a space like a shopping little like boutiques and all that stuff, and then I guess the, attractions kind of were just the things to kind of pull the land together, but the
Mm,
main focus was the little like walkways and like the paths that people mostly for nowadays kind of just walk past and don't take the time
right.
to like go down and explore, but that was really the heart of what that land was.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And gosh, like you said earlier, there's just so many layers to it. I mean, I was there back in February and I spent several hours in New Orleans Square,
Yeah.
and I still feel like, I miss so, even just like doing all this research, right? I'm like, I miss so much. I gotta go
Yeah.
back. And I am going back in 2 weeks. I convinced my husband, I'm like, we gotta go back. I did like the dining episode just came out yesterday, and I realized like there are still some places that I haven't even eaten yet,
Oh, yeah?
or like things, and I'm like, I can't move on with my life. I have to go do that.
That's awesome. But yeah, it was more like I think that was Walt's kind of more like laid back kind of stress-free corner of the park, if you will. So you're kind of
Mm,
experience, not it's not all about the attractions like you said. You're experiencing just the beauty of the area. And then again, tie that back into that's also where his apartment was going to be,
yep.
the family apartment, and then Club 33 where he'd kind of entertain the higher end, VIP type guests. So
The
like that was kind
non-peasants.
yes, yes. So that was kind of his like elevated little corner of the park. And again, it wasn't about like the rides and stuff. It was more just about the general feeling of the area.
Yeah, that's great. But speaking of rides, and you are decked to the nine, your favorite ride is Haunted Mansion, and
Yes.
it's mine as well. And you talked about earlier, maybe, maybe you didn't have the best introduction.
You're right, yeah.
Right. So I'm curious how one goes from that experience as a child to being an adult who is, dare I say, mildly
Mhm,
obsessed,
mhm.
passionately devoted.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's the layers of it, and I mean, Pirates has it too, but there's just something about the again, how it's not taking like it's something that's as serious a topic and as scary as a topic as like death and the afterlife is, and how it just kind of flips that on its head, and it's just more of a lighthearted, fun experience. There's so many different like little like scenes. There's not really a full like a true story per se because it's kind of a
Sure.
mismatch of different, differing ideas. And I just the fact that they just kind of keep upping it through all these years. This attraction's been open for decades
Hmm.
and it still just feels fresh and they're still putting new things in and pulling things off the shelves, dusting off old plans that, the forefather Imagineers had and they're
Yeah.
creating those pieces and bringing them to life. Of course, the most popular being the Hatbox Ghost, but then we also have like the vampire bat that's in there now and just different things that they kind of just keep bringing out. I just think is so they don't have to do these things, but they keep doing it.
Right.
It's like a love letter either to, to the fans or to the Imagineers ahead of them, whatever you want to say. I just think it's really, really neat that they just kind of keep it alive in fun and different and interesting ways.
Yeah, I like that. Keep it alive.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, no, that's such a good point. It's I love it because I This is weird, but I find it so upbeat.
Yeah, yeah. And
Like
the song's catchy, right?
yeah, I can't help to like dance and bop around, but just the layers of detail from literally the moment you walk under the archway, through the queue, there is never ending amounts of things to
Yeah.
notice. And I always find it like kind of like a game every time I ride it. Like, what can I find that I haven't seen before? Um, so, speaking of our 99 happy haunting friends, if you could sit down with one ghost, or
Mm,
rather soul, from the mansion, who would it be? And what might you talk with them about?
that's a great question. Um, huh. That I'm like tossing up between a couple. I almost would want to be like ask about the ghost host because he's
Okay.
with you the entire time. He knows everybody's business, but who the heck is this guy?
Yeah. Like literally, first question, who are
Yeah.
you?
Who are you? Where are you? And all that. So I think maybe the ghost host, just because he's kind of like the glue that holds the mansion, holds all the pieces of the mansion story together. I
Yeah.
mean, I think Leota would be fascinating because, like, why are
Mhm.
you trapped in this ball? And, like, all that
Yeah.
stuff. But, like, yeah, I think the ghost host. Non alive person, I would love to know what the caretaker is thinking of all
Right.
this.
Right.
I would love to know
Yes.
what is actually happening here.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
what
I
are
mean,
your
we
thoughts?
see, we see Bones when
Yeah.
his opinion on the matter, but yeah, that's a really good, like, what are your thoughts with what's happening here? And like, why do you keep working here? You
Yeah.
know?
Why haven't you left?
Yeah, like your puppy is scared. Why are you still here? No,
Yeah.
that's good. Yeah, the ghost host. Man, I hadn't even thought about that. I guess in my mind it just jumps to some of the ghosts in the graveyard, and
Sure,
there's
yeah.
just so many good ones, but the ghost host is a good one. Yeah. And like, how did you get to this point,
Mhm.
not just like dead, but
Yeah.
like where you're hosting the haunted mansion and you're traveling, like, yeah, how did you end up here and in the role that you're in, right?
Mhm. And I
Have,
just love his, the different like things that he says, like your cadaverous pal, like just all the little like quips that he has in his speeches, and like it's just great. It's just
yeah.
fantastic writing by the Imagineers when they did his stuff. I think that was X Anticio that
Uh-huh.
did that, and I just love it. I just absolutely love it. It's so creative, and like if you're not really paying attention, you don't really, you're whatever. But like if you sit there and really listen to all
Hmm.
the things that the ghost host is saying, it's just fascinating.
So if you had to like add a new room to the mansion, what might it be?
Hmm. Maybe just because they don't have one, a like kitchen. We have a
Mm.
ballroom. We don't have a
Hmm.
kitchen or
Yeah.
a bed. I mean, we don't even have bedrooms. We see the hallway, right,
Uh-huh.
with rooms, which you're gonna assume the bedrooms in. But yeah, a bedroom or a kitchen, maybe.
Yeah, I was
Obviously, they
thinking
don't need a bathroom because they're
no.
ghosts.
I'm like, that's a little like, we
Yeah.
don't need. Yeah, I was kind of thinking the kitchen too, because I feel like there could be a lot of really good gags
Mm.
that you could incorporate being in, right, like chopping off your hand,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something to do with like the boiling pots, or something like that. Yeah, a kitchen would be really fun.
Somebody had to make that birthday cake that's sitting in the ballroom.
Yes.
So like
Yes. Yeah, like who made it and
Mhm.
where did it come from?
Yeah.
Have you ever had like a super memorable experience on the Haunted Mansion? Like anything in particular that stands out?
One of my favorite things is every holiday season that we go is the anticipation of seeing the gingerbread house.
Oh, yeah, that's
And
good.
like it's like my favorite thing ever when we get stopped in the grand ballroom scene, and like you can just really sit there and take in as many of the details as you possibly can of the gingerbread house. I have never had any sort of like interesting experience, just what most people have, where you get paused somewhere for a period of time. But as far as like I've never gotten walked off of it. That would be
Hmm.
one of my like favorite things. I've never been with someone. Tag got to do this, but I've never been with someone that needed to go back to the beginning to get
Mm.
their wheelchair, and so he's gone through like the little backside there. But I just think it would be fascinating to just walk through all of the different
Yeah.
sets.
Yes, yeah, and that makes me think, so, the Disney Countdown podcast a couple weeks ago, they did, like, rides that you would wanna be evac'd off of,
Mhm.
but it has me thinking, like, rides that you want to get stopped on, right? Like, in general, we don't like it when the rides stop. I mean,
Yeah.
we understand things happen, but you're like, "Oh, man, like, let's keep going." But I always feel like I literally pray, like, "Please stop here. Please stop here." Like,
Yep,
I want it
yep.
to stop just so I can get more time to look around and notice the
Mhm,
details.
mhm.
Yeah, and sometimes I suppose I've been stopped, like, where you're falling out of the attic and you're about
Yep.
to go, and it's, like, backwards, and it's a hot day, and you're like, "Oh, I could just, like, sleep right here." Like
Yeah, we usually when we get pause places, it's not the most like, there's, like it's like the in-between scene places that we
Right.
seem to always get paused.
Right. So like being someone that is obviously a massive fan, and you've done a lot of your own research, but then also with travel planning, is there
Mhm.
any specific tips that you would give guests for really enjoying and making the most of their experience on Haunted Mansion?
Yeah, so what this is gonna sound ridiculous, but I'm gonna do it. We're gonna name drop. So last night we recorded our interview with Kevin Rafferty, and we were
Ah,
talking about actually the Haunted Mansion in specific and just like attractions and how Imagineers kind of use, stuff to like make you to kind of force you to focus where they want you to focus. And one of
uh-huh.
my favorite things to do is to look just off of that. So even like in the
Mm,
Haunted Mansion or whatever, because yes, go through the first time, watch what they're wanting you to look at and the things that they're trying to highlight, but then the next time you go on or whatever, try and look just off of that because it's a different experience. And so like the fact with the Haunted Mansion where it's you're in the doom buggy, they're physically pointing you to where they want you to look.
mm,
Everything around you though, you're 360 degrees of theming around you. So there's just so many different details and layers and stuff. So like in examples we were on it and I pointed out how there's like the little mini mansion in the attic to tag and he had never noticed that before because he was always
oh
looking
yeah.
at the photos and like that sort of stuff. So it's just fun to see like what things you can kind of find. And I think that's where Imagineers have more, I don't know, like ability to play, I guess would be a good way
Mhm.
of saying it. So they're kind of doing like funny little things. So like during um the overlay for Nightmare Before Christmas, there's the bride is of course not part of that
Right.
overlay, but there's this little, I don't know, ape thing that they hide in different corners that is
Yes.
a beating heart. But like,
Yes.
like just fun little stuff like that. So it's like, looking to figure out where that is and that kind of stuff. So it just brings a little bit more fun to an already really interesting attraction.
Ah, yeah, that is such a good tip. That's a good tip not just for the Haunted Mansion, but for
Mhm.
any attraction, period. But yes, so good. So that was for Haunted Mansion specifically. What about for New Orleans Square? Like some good tips for people to just really make the most of their time in that land.
Yeah, the biggest thing is just not to discount it. Don't just stay on that main path that takes you around the bend of the rivers of America. That is, yes, the most convenient path to get
Hmm.
to wherever you
Hmm.
wanted to get, but to really just take the extra time and moments to go back into all the different little streets to kind of see all the different details, whether it's beads that are stuck on like the lampposts or like the going into the crystal arts thing and like looking at all the different
Yeah.
not the stuff for sale, but like the stuff that's up,
Hmm.
that the Imagineers put to kind of bring that space to life and make it feel lived in and just that kind of stuff. And the other thing too, there's a ton of entertainment in New Orleans Square that if you're not going back in those little corridors, you're gonna miss because like the pirate band, they're usually back kind of near the exit of Pirates and stuff like that. You could just walk past all these things and not even realize that you're missing stuff.
Yeah, that's good. I love to go into the Pandora store there and
Mhm.
just look around, like look at the top and look at the masks. And sometimes I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm in the way. I'm not here to buy anything. I'm just
Yeah.
just
I'm
looking
just
at the
looking.
ceiling. Yeah, I'm just looking. So like speaking of entertainment, there is a lot of entertainment available there in New Orleans Square. What are some of your favorites? Like you gotta see it every time.
So, well, Fantasmic,
Yeah, yeah.
100%. But as far as like the, I don't know, ambiance type entertainment, We always really seem to make a point to go see the Bootstrappers, which is like that
Yeah,
pirate band, just 'cause I think they're fun and it's
they're
not
the
something that
best.
you necessarily would have known you were gonna run into, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Oh, totally. Yeah,
You
they're
know?
definitely one of my favorites. For sure. I love
Mhm.
them. And Fantasmic is so good. I remember seeing it for the first time, and it's one of those you just want to like get up and dance
Mhm.
in my mind. And I love Mickey's Mixed Magic. I know people
Yeah.
feel torn with that and have their like this is a very unpopular opinion, but it's my favorite
Is
fireworks
it?
show. It is.
I
I just
it's fun. It's
it's
a ton
just
of
so
fun.
fun. I just
Mhm.
love dancing. It's got some of my favorite, songs and my favorite nods to movies and attractions. And I just love it. And I remember when I was there for my bachelorette trip, and that's what they were playing. And us girls, we had met a woman who was there. She's a bit older than us, but she was there by herself, and she's like in her 60s. And she's like, I'm doing a solo day. Like I do this. She was amazing. We loved her. And we just brought her into our little girl gang and we danced down Main
How
Street listening to
fun. Yeah.
Mickey's Mix. It's just so fun. So I feel the same way with Fantasmic. Like just move out of my way. I just need to jam out right here.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's great. So if you had to plan, you're totally in charge, your perfect day at the park, the whole park, what might that look like?
Oof. So I am a firm believer and big lover. There's an extra magic about rope drop because you
Amen.
get to be there and there's like you have corners of the park completely to yourself. Well, not even corners, like full sections of the park.
Sometimes
What feels like
lands.
yeah, completely to yourself and it stays like that for
Mhm.
longer than you would think. So and then like the sun is shining, you're going down Main Street and all the, cast members are waving at you and it's like you're just like you're going to have a good day kind of thing. So there's just something if I could bottle up that feeling, I totally
Oh, that's so good.
would.
Yeah, yeah.
And then we always had left as usually, first day we always had left. And I hate to say it cuz it used to be we'd always start like with Indiana Jones
Mhm.
because you wanted to kind of get that one. It's super fun, super exciting, but then you didn't, get there before the wait times
Yeah.
catch up with you, but not so much anymore. It's usually we head on to New Orleans Square and it's either Pirates or Haunted Mansion
Mhm.
as the first, which is not the most efficient way to do a
No,
rope drop,
but
but
it's a great way to start the day. Like, let's
mhm,
get real.
mhm, mhm, exactly, exactly. So, and that wasn't even intentional since we're talking about New Orleans Square, but yeah, that's typically what it is. There's just something about it. I don't know.
Mhm.
So, like, yeah, always heading left, and then just kind of like I'm a big believer in what I call the Disney wins, and I understand that I get to go very often, and so I'm allowed to let the Disney wins kind of direct me. And if it's like your one time trip, or you don't know the next time you're going to be back, Disney wins maybe aren't the way to go all the time, but there's something really wonderful about Disneyland because even if you don't do like the lightning lanes or any of that kind of stuff, I still think you could have a fantastic day because there's just so many things to do.
Yeah.
But I don't even know because it all depends on like for food and stuff, it depends on my mood. All that stuff. I always like to take time. Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway has become a quick new favorite too. There's just again lots of layers, and that's just a very fun, carefree attraction. Honestly, this is like unpopular opinion. I could have a fantastic day in Disneyland and never step foot in either Galaxy's Edge or Tomorrowland and be like, not feel like I'm missing out on anything, which I
True.
know is not, not the case for everyone. But I think I appreciate both of those spaces and I enjoy the attractions, but I don't feel like, oh man, I didn't do it right if I didn't
Right.
go into
Right.
spaces.
No,
So
I hear you. There have been many a trips where I've not even bothered to go into Tomorrowland.
yeah.
For many like a lot of the rides, I get motion sick so easily. And I
Sure.
literally can't do like six out of like I can't
Yeah.
do so
Yeah.
many of the I can do Buzz Lightyear Astro Blasters. And if I'm in Tomorrowland, that's really the only reason I'm there. And I feel the same. I love Galaxy's Edge. It is so well done, but I can't do. Smuggler's Run.
Yeah.
And if I am going back there, it's because I'm going to go get one of their cold brews.
Yeah.
And then I'm
There you
like,
go.
wait, that's good.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, actually, we could probably go back there more so for food than attractions per se. And
Mhm.
then it's a, oh well, Rise is only an hour,
Right.
so that
Right.
sort of thing. So that's not necessarily a we gotta rope drop this kind of a space for me. And then I just really love Fantasyland, specifically different times of day in Fantasyland. I'm a morning or an evening Fantasyland person because it is not the greatest midday because it gets very hot and very crowded, so it's just
Mhm.
not somewhere I want to be. But yeah, and then just end the day depending on what's going on entertainment wise. I do like to try and stack entertainment so that I can do several things. So I really like going back to the Small World area to watch
Mm.
the parades and then watch the fireworks from Small World.
Mhm.
Versus trying to swim upstream to do it in the hub or on Main Street. But then there's other fireworks shows that you really need to have the full experience and be on Main Street to do it because they have either different like things that come up from the sides of the buildings or whatever that you just don't
Yeah.
get that same experience. And then I hate to say it, but when Murphy was there, Fantasmic like if I could watch it every single night, 100%. I'm not feeling as big of a draw to Fantasmic now that we don't have the Dragon Murphy, and I'm really hoping that we get an announcement that there's going to be some sort of replacement because the B or C mode that we're in right now is just
Right.
not it's just not as epic. It just feels like it's missing something. So I'm hoping
Right.
they get that corrected soon.
So if you and I think you might have already alluded to this, but I want to get it real
Yeah,
clear. If you had to only do one nighttime entertainment, like fireworks versus Phantasmic, like it's just not an option. You got to pick one. Which one is it going to be?
Fantasmic.
Okay.
Mhm.
Nice, nice. Now, so for people who are thinking of going to the parks, do you recommend they do have the dining packages, right? Where you
Mhm.
can dine, there's like a list of different places there
Yeah.
that you could get. Um, would you recommend that? Like, is it to you? I have my opinions, but to you, is it worth the money where you get the dining package and then you get kind of better reserved seating for the show? Do you think that's worth the money as opposed to just showing up and kind of getting whatever spot you get?
Oh, 100%. So even
Hmm.
though I we go multiple times a year, we do, especially now with the Rancho dining package, because I want
Yes.
to say it's like $35. So
Yeah.
it's a much more affordable price point than I don't even know what the other ones are now. Probably closer to
Some of
like,
them are like 60.
yeah, I was gonna
'Cause I
say I
just
feel
looked
like
at it the other day.
like 60
Hmm.
and 75 for some of those. I like that's hard to me, that's a harder expense to justify, especially if you've done it before. If it's, the one thing that you're, the once in the trip and
Yeah.
that's your one trip a year. Yeah, but like we go, like I said, a couple times a year, and every time I'm like, let's try and grab a Rancho reservation because that to me, that one is the no brainer. The food's delicious, it's quick service, so it doesn't take up as much as your park day, and you still get that like reserved seating, and it's just a
Hmm.
little bit more chill of an experience. You don't have people walking in front of you because the pathways still need to be open for people to get
Right.
around the parks and stuff like that. So yeah, 100%. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, and I think too, it just takes the stress out of will I get a good spot, right? Like
Yes.
how early do I have to get there? Where's the best spot? How um,
And you're
you
not
know,
standing.
you know, girl, yes, like I want to sit, period.
Mhm. I know it's
So
sitting on the ground, but it's
yeah,
not
yeah,
standing.
exactly. And we've personally done the package a couple of times. And the most recent one, we did the Rancho. A friend of mine, we went and did that. And I agree, that was a fantastic deal. So we ended
Yeah.
up doing like the lunch time. So it was great. And then I was just recently looking, because like I said, we're going in a couple of weeks, and I can't recall. My husband's not been nearly as many times as I have.
Mhm.
And I can't recall if he has seen Phantasmic with me. So I was thinking about doing a dining package, but then I've never eaten at Cafe Orleans. So that's
Oh,
on my to-do list this trip. Like I
yeah.
got to do that. So I looked at their dining package because they have one, and I think that one was like
Yep.
65. So I
Yeah.
was trying to like weigh that. And I also feel I ended up deciding not to do that because um we're we're doing a food crawl. Like we are going to eat. I even have a goal to eat something or drink something from every land that
There
day.
you go.
So when I'm looking at it, I feel like it would have been too much food.
Sure. Yeah.
Whereas like, okay, we could go for I ended up making lunch reservations. Like we could go for lunch and I could get like a gumbo and something smaller. He and I could share something. Whereas I feel like the dining package, if that's like your big meal of the
Hmm.
day, then like that's great. You're gonna
Yeah.
get a good meal, you're gonna get a great seat. But when we did the Rancho one, it was now it has me thinking, well, maybe can we just do Rancho? Well, no, we have New York Cafe. Well, I don't know. Maybe we need like a second lunch. I wish they
The
had
nice
breakfast at Rancho. Wouldn't
There
that
you
be
go.
amazing?
There you go. For your dining package, that'd be amazing.
Yes, yes. And then I love how you lifted watching the fireworks at Small World because I've done that a couple of times. And the last time I was there in February, I'm kicking myself. I ended up, I was by myself. So I started fireworks by the castle. And then I was like, I just like, what's the sitch back there? So I like power walked it back there. And there was like barely any
I
people.
know.
It was
So again,
fabulous.
you
So I'm
can
like, oh
sit.
man, I should have come from the beginning. And that was my plan for the trip that we have coming up. I was just so anytime my husband has been, we've never been able to really get good firework in front of the castle seating. And we talked about this the other day. So I was just gonna take him back. You get Small World, but we ended up I'm so excited. We're going to do the Women in History
Oh,
tour.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so you
Perfect.
get like the good seats
Hmm.
for the fireworks, and then they let you in. I know you know this. This is more for like listeners.
Yeah.
They let you in early enough where you could watch Paint the Night, and it's
Yeah.
a perfect spot to you face Main Street, you watch Paint the Night, you literally turn around and you have a perfect firework view.
Hmm.
So I'm like, all right, you get this. I haven't told them that yet, that that's a perk.
That's
So,
like a huge, like, the tour sounds great in and of itself, but then the fact that
yes.
that's there too, it's like, whoa, okay, that's a great
Yeah.
perk.
Yeah, I'm so excited. And he's like, "Yeah, that sounds cool." I'm the history person, so I'm
Hmm.
gonna love it. And he's like, "Yeah, that's cool. I'll learn some cool stuff, whatever. If you want to do it." So I'm like, "Yes."
Take a notebook so you can take notes because I don't know if
Um,
you've done any of the tours before, but they pack so much information into such a short amount of time that you're just like, I wish I could have recorded that so that I could like
yep. Yep. Oh, that's
appropriately like
definitely
digest and like absorb everything.
yes, that's definitely my plan. I did the Happiest Haunts tour back in
Yep.
October. Well, it wasn't October. It was late August, early September. Anyways, and to be honest, everything that they shared, I already knew,
Oh,
but I
sure.
still just loved doing just like hearing somebody else narrate it and like being
Mhm.
in the park, getting to hear this. It was still a great experience. I loved it. And I feel the more that we can support these things, the more that they'll do them.
That's
And I
true. Yeah.
I want more of it. So take my money. My husband was like, it's so expensive. I'm like, I know. He's like, but people are paying for it. So like
Mhm.
you, suckers like you. I'm like, they got me.
You're like, yep, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Um, well, here's some final thoughts for us as we
Mhm.
start to wrap up our time together. What is one thing that you really want listeners to know about either New Orleans Square or just Disneyland in general?
I think the biggest thing, and if you're already here and you're listening, you probably already know this, but like Walt, the only park that Walt stepped foot in and had a hand in was Disneyland. So even though, yes, it is the smaller castle and it feels more like a hug than other Disney parks do, it's still just very special and very important. Whether it's your favorite park or not, you need to like understand how much love, sweat, and tears went into this space. And if it wasn't for Disneyland, we wouldn't have Walt Disney World, Disneyland Paris, Tokyo, Shanghai, Hong Kong. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
none of those other places would really
The
exist in the same
cruises,
way.
like, yeah,
Yeah. And just
yeah.
like stuff like, like the creativity that they had to do and like the fact that this was new. These are people that were animators. They were or they worked on films or that sort of stuff, and they somehow pulled this together and made it happen. And it's something that so many people have loved for 71 years now. And just like the creativity that went around with it too. So like back to Norland Square, the stretching room that only exists because they were trying to figure out, well, how do we get people from the front of the facade
Mhm.
building into like where the actual show is? And so they came up with the stretching room gag, and it's an actual elevator for us. Walt Disney World, it's not, it's an illusion, but it's just just stuff like that is just fascinating to me. Or if you're a nerd, go to Google Maps and look at
Mhm.
different stuff, like see where like Indiana Jones, where that show building really truly is versus when you like walk into the beginning of it, and like how everything's situated, and like it's like a puzzle. And
Yeah.
it's just amazing because you don't, as the guest, you don't realize or feel that whatsoever. So I just think it's amazing. And the fact that we've got attractions that have been there for decades, some of them still since opening day, and they're
Mhm.
still drawing in crowds is just, the huge testament. And it's so special. It's just so
Mhm.
special. So even if, right, you're more of a universal person or whatever, I still think you have to give Disneyland its due for
Right.
just the history part of it, and know that it's not perfect, but we have to like just admire it for what it is.
Yeah. Ah, that's so good. And, even thinking about the impact that the park has had
Mm,
outside of the park and outside of the Disney company.
yeah.
I mean, we think about Universal, and Universal exists because of Disney, and the immersiveness and the way that it's trending now exists because of
Mhm.
Disney. And
Yeah.
even like smaller theme parks, there's some element of storytelling and immersion like that. That's because of Disney. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and some of just the technology advancements that have
Oh
come
yeah.
out there. So, that's such a beautiful tribute to the parks, Teresa. I love that. And final question,
Mhm.
um, and this can sometimes be a hot take in the Disney community, but we're gonna ask it. What is one thing at Disneyland that you hope never, ever, ever changes?
Ooh, the castle. I
Mm,
don't want our castle to ever change. And I never thought that I needed to like say that or clarify that. But then Hong Kong went and like completely
yeah.
redid and built onto their castle. So I was like, oh, I thought that was like maybe the one thing in a theme, like a Disney theme park, that would be safe. Apparently not. Our castle, and I know a lot of people kind of give it flack, like, oh, it's so small. I love our castle. I
She's
think
so pretty.
she's yeah, she's just gorgeous. Whereas the other ones, like Walt Disney World, needs to be massive because the park is so much bigger. So it's right, it's about the scale of things. And so that just kind of gives you a good sense of like Disneyland itself, that it's just like this. I don't know. I keep that's how, the best way I can describe Disneyland is it feels like a hug because it's such an intimate space that's filled with so many things that even though you're in there with who knows how many thousands of other
Right.
guests in a day, you never feel overwhelmed, and you never like there's still so many pockets and corners, and they just did such a great job of doing that. And so yeah. So anyways, the castle, that is my answer. I
That's
think a lot of other things are probably safe. Like I don't think Main Street, anything would happen to Main Street, because that would how would you get in and out of the park if they
right.
were redoing Main Street?
Right.
So
Right. Oh, yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
like that's
Yeah.
pretty safe. Like that's always, maybe things will change along the years, like facades or whatever, but
Mhm.
it's like the heart of Main Street will always be the same. But yeah, so the castle.
That's good. That's good. Well, thank you so much, Teresa, for joining me today.
Yeah.
I know people are going to listen and they're going to want to connect with you. You're just such a tremendous wealth of knowledge. You help so many people plan amazing trips, and you're a little ray of sunshine. So they're going to want to connect with you. So, plug whatever you want to plug. Tell us, where can
Yeah.
we find you?
Yeah, so for the podcast, our Facebook and Instagram is just at DL Weekly. And then for me, for like the travel planning and just kind of more of like my adventures, which I will fully admit I'm not a good social media person at all. But it is Castles and Cold Brews. So it's Castles _and_ Cold Brews.
Awesome. Love that. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your love for Disney and especially your love for New Orleans Square,
Yeah.
the best land.
Thank you so much for having me.
And that wraps up not just this episode, but our entire New Orleans Square series. I'm so sad, but I want to say a huge thank you to Teresa for joining me today and sharing her story, her love for this land, and of course, her incredible insights. This was such a special conversation and exactly the way I wanted to close out this series. I cannot believe that we are leaving New Orleans Square. It has been such a wonderful journey. Over these 4 episodes, we've walked every street, ridden every ride, listened to the jazz, tasted the beignets, and now we've heard from someone whose love for this land runs just as deep as ours. I hope this series made you feel like you were right there with me, wandering through the courtyards, catching the glow of the balloon lanterns, and maybe hearing Walt's espresso machine hiss one more time. Now, here's a little secret. As you're listening to this episode right now, I'm actually at Disneyland. That's right, I'm in the park as we speak. And that means our next episode is going to be a trip report. Fresh off the curb, full of stories, and hopefully a beignet or two deep by the time I sit down to record it. My husband and I will be spending 2 days in the parks, 1 day at Disneyland, literally today, the date that this episode launches, and the next day at DCA. We are going to do that New Orleans Square food crawl I told you about. Some fun things we have planned over the course of our 2 days is we are going to do the Women Who Make the Magic tour. I am so excited for that tour. I've heard really good things about it. I love that Disney is doing these types of things, and I really, really want to encourage them to do more. So I booked my ticket. We're also doing the World of Color dessert party. My husband has never done the World of Color dessert party, so I just wanted him to really be able to experience that and have fun. And it is a superior way to enjoy World of Color over there in DCA. So we are going to do that. As well as partake in as much Food and Wine Fest foods as we can tolerate. I already have my list started and I'm drooling and I cannot wait to get all of that delicious food in my belly. Now, if we are lucky, my husband will be joining us for an in-park trip report. He doesn't know that yet, but well, he's going to find out. I can't wait to share it all with you. It's going to be such a wonderful trip, and I'm just so excited to get back into the parks. It's much sooner than I had anticipated, but YOLO if you're a millennial. Now, friends, if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to follow, rate, and leave that beautiful review. It truly helps more Disney dreamers discover the magic of the parks, the land we love so much. You can also connect with me, of course, on Instagram at Once Upon a Castle Podcast or on TikTok at Virginia K. West. Definitely be expecting some fun in-park content coming your way. Now that we've had plenty of time, although still yet not quite enough, I digress. We've had a lot of time in New Orleans Square. I asked Teresa about what the feeling of New Orleans Square is that she picks up. So I would be really interested to know what you all think. If you had to declare a feeling that embodies New Orleans Square, what would it be and why? Of course, you can share your thoughts in the reviews on TikTok, Instagram, or email me, and I will leave all of that info in the show notes. But until next time, my friends, keep the magic alive, keep the memories close, and as always, I am wishing you a great, big, beautiful tomorrow. Bye-bye.